Welcome to the Creative Chats Podcast with Mike Brennan. Hey, welcome to another episode of Creative Chats. It's the podcast for artists, makers, and content creators where we talk about creativity, the creative process, and story. I'm your host, Mike Brennan. You can connect with me over on my website, which is mikebrennan.me, and I would love for you to take advantage of all the resources that I have created there just for you, because you are a creator, you are creative, and it doesn't matter what you do, what your title is, what your background training is, education, etc. If you make things, you are a creator, you're creative. And I want to invite you into a deeper level of that, where you can show up as the most alive and passionate version of yourself possible. So I've created resources under Daily Creative Habit. If you go to dailycreativehabit.com, it will bring you directly to the page where you can access things like the Daily Creative Habit Journal, which will help you on a 90-day sprint to be engage with your process, to track and measure what you're doing, and make sure you're actually taking some action steps. There's also a free Facebook group, and there's also a paid membership for Daily Creative Habit if you want to go a little bit deeper dive in that. I want to invite you into all of that and more. And again, visit dailycreativehabit.com today. Now, for the show today, I have on William Gasner, and William is the CMO of Stack Influence. And we talk about social media. We talk about, I know, wait for it, there's a buzzword here of influencer. And honestly, that word has a lot of stigma to it, doesn't it? Right? Like we automatically go to like the Kardashians or some celebrity who's trying to hawk their wares and push a product maybe that they don't even really believe in, simply because it's money and opportunity and exchange. And it just feels sometimes gross, right? Well, today in this conversation, we talk about how do we do that in a way that isn't gross, that is more aligned and is more authentic. And there's some education here. There is some insights here that I think are really valuable, especially if you're someone who immediately when you think about influencer or you think about social media in general as a creative person, and you're like, I loathe social media because I don't know what to do. It just feels like I have to keep up with it. And it's this ever hungry beast that I need to keep feeding. Well, and today we talk about specifically partnering with brands and companies who maybe there's some products that you already use, or maybe you're interested to use because it would make your creation process better. And so when you come from the place of authenticity and saying, I would actually recommend this product that I'm already using or that would make my life easier. If someone asked me about my process, someone asked me about some tools that I use, I'd happily tell them and send them to this company. That's really more of what we're talking about. So today you may have some insights and some action that you need to take as a result of listening to this podcast today to say, I want to go check this out. And specifically that you would visit Stack Influence and see if they're a partner that you can link arms with, who can help you manage this and connect you with the businesses and brands that you might really like to be able to partner with. So listen real close, take some notes, and without further ado, here is my creative chat with William Gasner. Well, welcome to the Creative Chats Podcast, William. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
So I know we're going to talk about, just creators connecting with brands and Stack Influence and all the good things that we're going to get to. But before we dive too deep into that pool, I want to know, for you personally, what is the earliest creative memory that you have? Like, what was it around a certain activity, a certain project, or an expression? Like, what does that look like for you?
Good question. The probably earliest was really reading, in a weird way, comic books and also making my own superhero characters. I have a very early memory of telling my friends that they could make any superhero if they put any word in front of man or woman, and then they could have their own superhero. I had a ambition as a young child to actually be a cartoonist when I grew up, which is a weird ambition for a kid, but did not fulfill that yet. But I would say that's probably my earliest creative act, and started making though my own kind of products to sell to people when I was 12 years old. So been a creative for a long time. But that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, no, I love asking those questions because sometimes we find that like the seeds of what we're doing today actually were planted back then. And
Absolutely.
this idea of like, we didn't really know much of anything beyond like, this is cool. This is enjoying, I'm enjoying this. So I want to do more of this. And so there's no
Completely.
pressures of like livelihood and external voices and all the rest of that stuff when we're that young. And so sometimes it's like that's the purest form of what it is that we do and how that can branch out. Obviously, it's not usually like a one for one of like, oh, well, this is what it looked like then and it looks exactly like that now. Sometimes it's even the process or like the interest of things,
I
right?
totally agree. And I actually, on that point, like, I still tell my friends, hey, you can create a business by coming up with XYZ, right? So
Yes.
it very much has translated throughout my life with that similar mentality of start with an idea, start with a framework, and kind of go at it and see what comes from it.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about that is you can apply that across so many different things, so many different ideas. And that's one of the reasons why I think I fell in love with process, even though I wasn't aware that that's what it really was that I was in love with,
Totally.
because I create so many different things and I can overlay that process. And then there's something I think that happens where it becomes intuitive, right? Where you're bringing the best parts of yourself, you're bringing the ideas and the execution. You've had practice in that, and so you know what to expect. You anticipate some of the hurdles and some of the things, the challenges along the way, and you're able to navigate that, I think, a little more smoothly because you're kind of more in touch with yourself and with the process, right? I mean, have you
Totally.
seen that in your own work and life so far?
100%. There is no question. Every single thing I've incrementally done over my life has built to a foundation for the next thing, right? From not only the obviously successes, but even more so the failures, right? Of what not to do. But again, that simple framework, which I think is accessible to anyone, especially in this day with technological advancements and being able to put something out very, very fast with AI, et cetera, is creativity, right? Like that's the real last frontier of where like you could do so much, speaking of AI, but like you still have to come up with that initial idea and also prompt these systems to actually create what that vision is. And I encourage everyone in my life to do that. Is like you come up with these ideas but put them into action is another thing. Is come up with them but also take action on them
Yes.
and build them into fruition.
Yeah. Excuse me. So many times the idea people get enamored with, and then you're right, in that action is the thing that's needed because that's where you really flesh out that thing and it becomes a real thing. And I
Absolutely.
think so many times people avoid it because they want clarity before they start taking action. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like clarity comes when you take action, not before usually, because you can imagine something, you can anticipate so many different things, but then when you're actually doing it, something may happen and you're like, oh, I did not see that coming. And now I need to learn to adapt. I need to be resourceful and really pivot a lot of times because it doesn't necessarily go the way we think, or the idea really evolves even as we're taking action, right?
100%. Which is where like there's the ethos in the startup or entrepreneurial world of MVP, right? Minimum viable product is
Yes.
put something on paper, get it out to some people, actually create something that's very rudimentary. It doesn't have to be a full fleshed out concept and start testing it because you're going to quickly learn pitfalls that you might not have realized, difficulties of actually pursuing the idea, how the market responds. Maybe it morphs into something that you didn't initially anticipate. And that initial feedback loop is so key to anything successful. Um, and that a lot of ideas, as much as I encourage everyone to kind of come up with their own business to pursue these visions they have. A lot of times it is a difficult journey. Entrepreneurship is not for
Yes.
everyone, right? It takes time to develop something and some people are afraid to even share their ideas or put them out there because they think someone's going to steal it. And it's like you realize how difficult, if you're really passionate about it, you are going to be the one who is going to make this a reality and make it successful. But that doesn't mean that every other person who you share this with is going to be able to accomplish it. And so, big advocate about sharing ideas, putting them out very quickly, getting learnings, and then going back to the drawing board.
Yeah. I remember when I first was introduced to that idea and it was revolutionary. And I thought to myself, like, okay, this is being talked about in terms of entrepreneurship and certainly out of the tech world, like you mentioned. But I think this can be applied to anybody creating anything. Like,
I
this is
completely
such
agree.
valuable information and process to go through to make sure that you're actually testing and validating and again taking action, because otherwise everything is just guessing until you actually
Absolutely.
do the work, Yeah.
100%. And I resonate with that in all aspects of my life as well. It's not just to a tech company or even a business in general, right? Like small things you do in your day to day. It's like put something out, test it out, rudimentary. Like people are a lot of times afraid to do that because when they create something, they want it to be polished, they want it to
Hmm.
be perfect. And what really happens in a lot of times is that that initial idea you may have thought of it as the most beautiful thing. And sometimes those certain percentage of the time, it does actually what you first put out becomes something massive. But more often than not, you're going to make a lot of errors along that way and in that journey. And to get that initial feedback to just see how the market, how the consumers, how just people in your life respond to, again, not even in the business world, to some action you are taking allows you to really be successful in any of those pursuits.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Let's turn the corner here to talk about Stack Influence. And so it's connecting creators and brands pretty
Yep.
much, right? On a
That's
simple
exactly
level.
right.
And where did this come from? What is your role? Fill us in on some of the details.
Sounds like a plan. So my role currently in the company, I'm one of the co-founders, one of three, and I'm also the chief marketing officer. So I spearhead the growth side to the platform in all forms. Now, you kind of nailed it as the very simple high-level pitch of connecting brands or e-commerce brands specifically at the moment to influencers, social media promoters. We have going a little bit more nuanced there. We have a focus on smaller creators or what the industry calls nano or micro influencers, usually people with less than 100,000 followers. And we like to call ourselves democratizing the creator economy because when most people think of influencers, they think of the celebrities of the world, the Kardashians, right? People with hundreds, if not millions of followers. And what we decided to focus on is kind of this long tail of the market, almost the 90% of people on social media who are just starting out or have a smaller, more tight knit follower base, and creating a platform that helps brands connect or tap into these types of people, help them manage those collaborations. We actually have pretty much an A to Z automation funnel for a brand to work with creators, and then also helps them scale it up. So think of instead of working with someone with 1 million followers, maybe work with 100 people with 10,000 followers, right? You get that same reach, but you're diversifying your risk across a lot more people. You're also kind of increasing your, you could say, engagement levels. Like smaller creators, their audience is more trusted, more engaged. It's family, it's friends, it's close acquaintances, it's passionate followers. And so you aggregate a higher engagement level, which naturally correlates with interest and conversions, which on the e-commerce or brand side is a big desire. And then you're also kind of going back to MVP, like you're getting your product out into the hands of a lot of people who are going to give you feedback, who might become champions of your product, who might become real customers of your product. And you end up just overall getting a better bang for your buck as opposed to putting a lot of your eggs in one basket with the larger creators, right? Now, not to say larger creators aren't effective at all, but different types of strategies. And going back to why Stack Influence was created. So, one of the first businesses I actually made, going back to my childhood, was selling handmade cutting boards at farmers markets. So, my dad was an architect. He was taught us woodworking at a very young age. And so we started making, my brother and I, a bunch of different handmade cutting boards and actually the shape. We made unique cutting boards. My brother still actually runs the company. So think like a cutting board in the shape of a fish or an elephant, right? So uniquely shaped things. I grew up on a small island off the coast of Rhode Island. So a lot of nautical themes there. But that transitioned me kind of into not only the product world, but then also the e-commerce world. So developed my own websites. I ran a web development company for a long time, and then also spearheading into a lot of other different e-commerce ventures from jewelry to toys and games, teeth whitening products. And that's really where my entrepreneurial startup world really took off and became a seven-figure seller selling e-commerce goods. And after some failures, after some big successes in that world, selling some companies, decided to start Stack Influence. And the reason behind that was during this whole e-commerce journey, we utilized a lot of different influencer marketing to get the word out about our products. Full spectrum as well, from very expensive celebrity endorsements to product seeding, sending free products to people with very small follower bases and aggregating kind of these nano micro influencers. During that journey, we found that the smaller creators just overwhelmingly gave us better returns. And for a variety of reasons I mentioned before, of diversifying that risk, of getting higher engagement levels, of getting real customer feedback, turning these people actually into potential real customers and champions of the product. But also just longer term relationships with these people, as they might have had 10,000 followers when they started, but they incrementally over time grew into much larger kind of creators, you could say. And doing sort of longer term relationships in the terms of ambassadorships, affiliateships. For those of you who don't know what those are, like giving someone a commission of sales when they promote your product in the long run on different channels over time, and really built up this internal network of these people who are consistently promoting our brands. And it just became this really, really effective marketing channel for us, as well as helped us build our brand a lot. Because besides just like the comparison to online ads of someone promoting something on social media, there's a big value in just the content that was being created by these people as well. So images and videos that then we could repurpose on to our website for social proof, use them to increase our conversions and improve the effectiveness of our online ads, use them for marketing material. And so it really helped kind of build this foundation for the brands that we were creating. Along that journey, though, we ran into some issues with this of finding every product has a different type of person who might be willing to promote it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And secondarily, finding enough people who are willing to promote something at a given time, and then also dealing with the logistics of getting them product, making sure they post on time, making sure kind of they align with the brands that we were developing, was very, very difficult. And so we started to build out some internal solutions to kind of automate this, simplify it. And that ended up being the foundation to Stack Influence. And going back to the MVP, like we were building things for ourselves, but then also started people in the ecosystem, in the e-commerce ecosystem that we played in, wanted to get access to what we had done for ourselves. And so we started kind of giving that out to our colleagues. They started giving us feedback on what they liked, what they didn't like. And that really just snowballed into really kind of somewhat unexpectedly into a business in itself. And that was about 8 years ago. And now we're a venture-backed business with dozens of employees and millions of revenue, and it's been quite a journey so far. The last thing I will say is we're a two-sided marketplace, not only helping the brands, but also helping creators. And we're very passionate about that. I've managed my own creator accounts myself. I consider myself a creator. And so we also want to provide a lot of value to them and really kind of take away the power, as I mentioned, from the celebrities and give it to the average everyday person. And do that in the form of not only giving people products that they actually like and monetary opportunities to make potentially a living off of being a creator, but also develop these brand relationships that they might not normally have been able to create themselves. So creating this network to offer them these opportunities to work with brands, create longer term relationships, as I mentioned, as ambassadors or affiliates, and then possibly turn that into kind of a more dedicated sponsorship, you could say, in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. Love that. And thank you for unpacking that and helping people kind of have a window inside of what's happening there, because I think the strategy of what's happening sometimes might get lost in the day-to-day flow of things, or people, when they hear the word influencer, there may be a certain stigma or like reaction,
Absolutely.
right? Those kind of things. And especially when it comes to creators and artists specifically, I think there's this sense of like, I don't know, maybe that feels inauthentic, or maybe that feels like it's, too corporate or too whatever. And
Totally.
there's this immediate thing that rises up. And I love to have these conversations because really it helps bring some understanding and perspective. And it's not going to be for everybody, and that's fine, right?
Absolutely.
But for those who this might be for, What would you say if there's a creator listening right now and they're wrestling with a little bit of that like skepticism and kind of going, I don't know. And like, what is the benefit for me here really? Like, how does this work for me? Because I'm struggling with my own social media stuff of like posting my work and whatnot. How does this actually benefit me in the long run?
Absolutely, and great question. So I completely resonate with the idea that kind of the influencer term has weirdly created a some capacity negative connotation to it, right? When you hear influencer, you almost hear sellout, and the essence of the best type of influence is authenticity, right? Like
Yeah.
fundamentally, like word of mouth marketing is actually where influencing really started. And it's like when you're a simple example of looking for your next book and you know your friend who reads a very similar genre of books, like you're going to your friend to ask them what you should read, right? And that's true influence, that's true authenticity, that's true trust, and that's been around forever. And that's really what we try to emulate with the Stack Influence platform is like this even though the term influencer is what we still do promote, we want to create this community and honestly rebrand influencer as almost passion promoter. So it's like everyone is passionate about certain things and some people are more passionate than others on certain topics. And to your close knit, you could say friends and family, and again, people who just have found you online, they're following you because of that passion that you might have, especially if your profile on social media is more focused on something. So a very simple example is like, let's say that you are interested in any sports like golf, rock climbing, basketball, you name it, right? Let's just take rock climbing as an example. So you might post a lot of times on social media about rock climbing. You might not be a professional rock climber, right? Um, but in the terms of your friends and people who follow you, like they are obviously following you or they're friends with you because they know also, maybe not friends specifically because you're a rock climber, but they know that you have an expertise or a passion in this subject. So now if a brand comes along and offers you, let's say, some free rock climbing shoes, right? First off, being maybe not a professional, but like someone who's you're not going to get paid thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a promotion. You might get just a free pair of rock climbing shoes. So you're not going to also take any deal. You're probably going to take a deal or take a product collaboration with something you actually know is quality, right? Because why would you put an effort to promote something? And as you mentioned, just managing a social profile itself is quite a lot of work. So to go into like a brand relationship also takes extra time. Now, you're going to be picky with who you actually work with. And so maybe the right rock climbing shoe comes along that you actually a brand you really love. And so you're like, absolutely. Why would I like free rock climbing shoes, potential monetary advantage from this? But I'm not going to just promote anything to my audience because like if I just promote something to my other rock, probably other rock climbing friends follow my account. And if I'm promoting a brand that isn't very quality or produces something that isn't very quality, they're going to be like, Will, why are you actually promoting this thing that no one actually trusts, right? Or is something that's low quality? So, but now on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you're promoting something that is cool and is a very quality product, now the people who might just be starting to get into rock climbing are going to be like, this is the person I actually trust in my life that has the most passion and, in essence, expertise. Might not, again, be a professional, but is the closest to you to have good advice on some product that they might want to buy. And that's, again, trusted, authentic, true influence. And it comes down to a passion that someone has, and that spreads across not just sports, but any sort of genre, whether it's art, whether it's beauty products, you name it, right? And so that's really, again, what we try to emulate with our community is like providing and why we built a marketplace system where it's kind of like a shoppable marketplace, all these different categories that are catered to your specific interest as a creator. You can participate in none, you can participate in multiple campaigns over time, but it comes down to what are the products that in your life you are actually passionate about? What do you have some expertise on? And how can you create some content that's truly authentic, truly trustworthy to your audience? And it helps not only obviously the brand sell the product better, but also builds trust in your follower base because, and that's going back to why would you want to do this as a creator yourself is like, first off, you're getting almost more reputation, you could say, by working with established brands in your specific niche. And secondarily, it's an amazing world that we now live in that you can potentially even make a living off of being a creator full time. And creating brand relationships is one of the best ways to do that is if you can kind of promote products again that you believe in over time, you can make monetary commissions from that. And then you can also get a variety of different perks from different brands. I mean, take it as far as actually professional sponsorships. Like in essence, those are passion promoters in truth, right? Like you are a professional runner and you're sponsored by Nike, right? Like they might be giving you a full-time salary. I truthfully, we're already starting to see this with some creators of like exclusive relationships, exclusive salaries. Like you become big enough, like certain brands are going to want to rep you, you could say, in the long run. And I think that we're going to only start to see more of that and also more of it in the smaller creator realm, someone who isn't known to everyone, doesn't have millions of followers, but may have a few tens of thousands of followers and actually is a big, because they're so niche and because they have such a passion in one specific focus, that brands will create this exclusive longer term relationship with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you defined it, the influence in terms of it's not coercion, it's not strong arming.
Yeah,
It's simply something you're passionate about and you already have an interest and maybe you're already using some products. And so to partner with people and businesses that feel aligned. And I think that's
absolutely.
the big thing that probably would be a pushback. People going like, this feels icky. This, I don't know, like, like that. And I think if people can get through that, work through that and understand and go, okay, right. And we're talking about a strategy here, right? We talked about that before. They can really start to leverage this for their advantage too and build relationship with these companies too, because that's really what it comes down to. It's the people, it's behind things. It's not simply just, products and that are here today and gone tomorrow, or, businesses just building big, 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 big. It's really about people and it's about being a help. And also if you can lend a voice to say, hey, I tried this thing, this product, and it really helped me do what I do better.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't I want to share that with somebody else? Right?
100%.
Like
Yep.
somebody who I know and love and want to see them excel in the things that they do and go, yeah, if they ask me for advice, I would totally give them advice. Or they ask me about my process or about the tools I use. Like it's all within that same thing. And I think demystifying it in conversations like this is so important because then it gives people understanding and it gives them access. So if somebody's listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm tracking with you guys. Good. Okay, what do I do? Like, how do I go about this? Obviously, there's some kind of criteria as far as who may be able to participate with this. I know you mentioned, smaller numbers that you guys are trying to work with people who don't necessarily have the large followings. But like, if someone I want to do this, let me go investigate. What do they need to know?
Yeah. So two levels. If you want to join Stack Influence, our community, right? You can go to our website, stackinfluence.com. You simply submit an application. You submit your basic info on yourself, submit your social profile, and we do have a vetting criteria. So we do want you to be active on social media. You can't have the last post you've done can't be 10 years ago, right? It has to be consistent over time. Your engagement levels also have to be real and also high enough to get approved. That can vary over different profiles, but we want your audience to actually care about what you're promoting, right? We look for fake followers. We don't want fake people on the profile system. And then also, we want brand friendly content. So we don't want you posting a bunch of scandalous type things in your profile, right? Like you will be representing brands in this. And so we want alignment there. And then as far as follower base, we actually go as low as 200 followers for you to actually join. And the reason we go that low, and some people are shocked by that, and they're like, people get stuck on the follower range thing. And you think, how does that person have any influence? They have 200 people who are following them. And the reality that's it's in our current social media era of the world is that the platforms and algorithms have quite changed dramatically over the past few years. And what has happened is that follower base almost now, in a weird way, becomes a vanity metric. And also alignment, right? Like you were mentioning, it's like consumers are now extremely smart, and you see, and why a lot of celebrity promotions have kind of fallen off is that like if you're promoting something that's not aligned with you, or your passions or your brand, you could say, people are not going to trust you and people are going to unfollow you. They're not going to engage with your content because they understand, like, especially if you're getting paid enormous amounts of money, some people will promote anything. And if you do that, a lot of consumers are smart enough now to say, that's not a real promotion. That's not authentic, right? Like, you don't care about that product. You're probably throwing it away after you did this promotion. You did it for this huge sum of money. And so alignment is key across the board, whether you're getting paid a huge amount or you're doing something just for a free product. So as far as going back to why we allow someone with only a few hundred followers to join, what's happened in the social realm is it used to be the fact that, let's say you had 10,000 followers, you post on social media, or let's say a million, going to the celebrity realm. And if all of those million followers were on social media in the next few days after you posted, pretty much a majority of them would see your content. And what's happened now, there's two shifts that happened. The first is that social platforms started to only show content to people who truly were consistently engaged with your profile. When I say consistently engaged, like every time you posted and they saw your content, they stopped to look at it for a while. They might have liked, they might have commented, they might have shared, right? And now when you post, you have a million followers, only the people who are doing those kind of actions, those engagement levels, that real attention to your post are going to actually see your content in general. Otherwise, they're not even going to get fed in their feed to it. And the reason social platforms did this was because as social media grew, people started following every random person, right? Like maybe you saw someone on TV and you started following them randomly, but you didn't really, maybe the content they were producing, you were interested in them at one point, but the content they're producing, you're not that interested in. But now your feed got filled up with all this stuff that maybe you didn't really care about. And so then you just left Instagram or left Facebook or left TikTok, you name it. And that was not good for the social platforms. They want to have people kind of consistently on their apps. And so what they realized was, like, if we just feed them anything, maybe what they followed wasn't necessarily the key, or they didn't realize the content that was going to fill up their feeds. So maybe one of the people they followed who they're really engaged with, we'll feed them that stuff, but let's fill in the blanks with stuff that they actually really care about. And so it's shifted this realm to where, like, engagement is really the most important metric for your follower base. The second thing they realized was that, okay, let's say there's this piece of content that gets produced, and this is the second big evolution of social media in the past few years, that got a huge amount of engagement with the follower base, right? It's very, very creative. People loved it. Social media platforms realized, like, that content might be in other people outside of that follower base might enjoy that piece of content. So let's just start showing that to new profiles and see if they like it, right? And TikTok really spearheaded this, but it's shifted pretty much all of the social platforms because it now enables someone with 200 followers to have a post that goes viral. It comes down to the content that's being created, and it comes down to the creativity of the individual. If you can, regardless of what your follower base is, if you produce really quality content, that content's going to get shown to a much, much larger, broader audience. And that also enables these people to, like, go viral and get thousands, millions of followers in a very, very short time frame. It used to take years to actually develop this larger follower base. But it puts more, and it's a beautiful, honestly, evolution, because it puts more power in the creativity of individuals. Like, if you're a creative person, like, you can kind of hit the ground running very, very rapidly. And it also enables us to open the playing field to a much broader spectrum of different types of creators. You don't have to have this huge established account with thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of accounts to actually start creating relationships even with brands, or start becoming a potential longer term creative content creator. So yeah, that's where I say that is my advice. If you want to start Stack Influence, just simply apply. If you pretty low barrier to entry, if you check all those boxes, you're going to start getting brand deals, and then you're going to be able to choose what's a good fit for you. Now, if you want to start a content creator journey outside of Stack Influence, first off, start figuring out what your niche is. Start building somewhat of a follower base, or again, in an MVP style way, start testing different types of content and seeing how people relate to it, because the goal is to create things that are highly resonating with a larger audience. And then if you're trying to get some initial brand deals without going through a platform like Stack Influence, start direct messaging brands on social media that you feel like are a good fit for you. Usually people have contact information to, or find someone on LinkedIn that is representing their influencer marketing or affiliate marketing program. And you'll quite rapidly find that people are very happy to do initial collaborations with you, and you can create those relationships incrementally. Now, takes a bit of effort to establish those, to manage them, and that's one advantage to utilizing a platform like ours, is that we're handling kind of that automation, not only for brands to automate the influencers, but also for influencers to automate their brand relationships and really streamline it. But you can do it yourself without using any other platform if you would like.
Yeah, so much good information in there. And I love your perspective. I love that this conversation hopefully is making some light bulbs go off in people's minds and going, oh, this is possible, or this is interesting enough for me to explore and see, is this right for me? Because
Absolutely.
that's, again, going back to earlier in our conversation, right? Taking action. This could be the moment where somebody takes action to explore, to understand a little bit more, to try and see what happens. And they may unlock something that was not even on their radar before listening to this podcast. So I love when those things happen. As we wrap things up today, I just want to thank you for your time. One more time, can you just tell people where to go if they are interested in exploring?
Absolutely. So whether you're an e-commerce brand trying to tap into an influencer community, or you're a social media user who's trying to become a content creator or passion promoter or influencer, if you want to call it that, go to stackinfluence.com. At the top right, there is a very simple sign up button. It'll direct you to whether you're a brand or an influencer, and very quick form to fill out. Quickly get back to you if you're the right fit for us on both the brand or influencer side. And feel free also to reach out to our company at contact@stackinfluence.com, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you again so much for this time today. And I know that there's going to be some people who are going there right now after listening. And I encourage people to do that. Even if you're not sure, just go and check it out.
Yeah.
Find out for yourself. And what's the worst that can happen if you just try something? If it doesn't work out for you, then it doesn't work out for you. But at least you know and you've taken some action.
Absolutely. So, you can see different opportunities there. There's no payment you have to make. So you can sign up, see if there's anything good fit, leave the platform, come back to it. It's up to you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us today, William.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.